The Middle East is once again on the brink, but this time the stakes feel dangerously higher. A failed US-Iran diplomatic push has triggered a chain reaction of military alerts, energy threats, and global anxiety. Behind closed doors, powerful nations are making moves that could reshape the world order. The question is no longer if tensions will rise, but how far they will go, and who will be caught in the fallout. The escalation of tensions in the Middle East has reached a deeply concerning boiling point. Ali Salam diplomatic efforts between the United States and Iran collapsed over the weekend without any meaningful breakthrough. What initially appeared to be a fragile but ongoing negotiation process has now unraveled into a state of heightened uncertainty, leaving global observers increasingly alarmed. The failure of these talks signals more than just a temporary setback. It represents a widening gap between two geopolitical adversaries whose rivalry has long shaped regional instability. Ali Salam rhetoric intensifies and strategic patience diminishes, the risk of miscalculation grows significantly, raising fears that the situation could spiral into a broader and more destructive conflict with far-reaching consequences. This latest breakdown in diplomacy has sent shockwaves across the international community, triggering urgent discussions among world leaders and defense institutions. Analysts warn that the absence of communication channels between Washington and Tehran removes a critical safety valve that previously helped contain tensions. Without this diplomatic buffer, both sides may resort to more aggressive posturing, increasing the likelihood of unintended escalation. The global response has been swift, with several nations urging restraint while simultaneously preparing contingency measures to protect their strategic interests. The sense of urgency is amplified by the fact that multiple flashpoints across the region remain volatile, creating a complex web of risks that could ignite at any moment. Adding to the gravity of the situation is the growing involvement of other major powers, particularly Russia, which has intensified its diplomatic maneuvers in the region. High-level meetings between Middle Eastern officials and Russian representatives have underscored Moscow's intent to position itself as a key mediator, or power broker, in the unfolding crisis. However, this involvement is not without controversy, as some Western analysts interpret Russia's actions as an attempt to expand its geopolitical influence amid the vacuum created by stalled US-Iran relations. This dynamic introduces an additional layer of complexity, as competing interests among global powers intersect with regional rivalries, making coordinated de-escalation efforts increasingly difficult. Meanwhile, threats targeting critical oil and gas infrastructure have emerged as one of the most alarming developments in this evolving crisis. Energy facilities across the Gulf region are now considered high-risk targets, with officials warning that any significant disruption could have immediate and severe consequences for global energy markets. The mere possibility of attacks has already triggered fluctuations in oil prices, reflecting the market's sensitivity to instability in one of the world's most vital energy corridors. Governments and private sector stakeholders alike are scrambling to reinforce security measures, recognizing that even a limited strike could send shockwaves through the global economy and exacerbate existing economic pressures. The military dimension of the Azma has also intensified, with several countries in the region deploying advanced air defense systems in anticipation of potential attacks. This includes the rapid mobilization of missile interception technologies and the reinforcement of strategic military bases. Such actions, while defensive in nature, contribute to an atmosphere of heightened alert that can easily tip into confrontation. The presence of heavily armed forces operating in close proximity increases the risk of accidental engagements, particularly in a context where trust between opposing sides is virtually non-existent. Each deployment, each movement, is closely monitored and often interpreted as a signal of intent, further fueling suspicion and tension. In parallel, intelligence reports suggest an uptick in cyber activities linked to state and non-state actors, targeting both governmental and industrial systems. Cyber warfare has become an increasingly prominent component of modern conflicts, offering a means to disrupt operations without direct military confrontation. In the current scenario, such activities could serve as both a precursor to physical attacks and a tool for strategic signaling. The ambiguity inherent in cyber operations complicates attribution and response, creating additional challenges for policymakers attempting to navigate an already volatile situation. As digital and physical domains converge, the scope of potential conflict expands beyond traditional battlefields. Regional alliances are also being tested as countries reassess their security postures in light of the escalating crisis. Long-standing partnerships are being reinforced, while new alignments are quietly taking shape behind closed doors. Nations that were previously on the periphery of the conflict are now finding themselves drawn into its orbit, whether through economic ties, security commitments, or geographic proximity. This shifting landscape underscores the interconnected nature of modern geopolitics, where localized tensions can rapidly evolve into broader confrontations involving multiple actors with diverse interests and agendas. At the same time, humanitarian concerns are beginning to surface as civilians across the region brace for the possibility of further escalation. Memories of past conflicts remain fresh, and there is widespread anxiety about the potential for displacement, economic hardship, and loss of life. Aid organizations are closely monitoring the situation, preparing to respond should conditions deteriorate. The human cost of conflict often extends far beyond the immediate zones of confrontation, affecting entire populations and leaving long-lasting scars on societies. This dimension adds a moral imperative to the urgent calls for de-escalation and renewed diplomatic engagement. Financial markets have not remained immune to the growing uncertainty, with investors reacting cautiously to the unfolding events. Stock indices have shown signs of volatility, while safe haven assets such as gold and government bonds have experienced increased demand. The interplay between geopolitical risk and economic stability is particularly evident in this context, as market participants attempt to anticipate potential scenarios and adjust their strategies accordingly. Prolonged instability in the Middle East could have ripple effects across global trade, supply chains, and investment flows, underscoring the importance of maintaining stability in the region. Ultimately, the current trajectory of events highlights the urgent need for renewed diplomatic efforts and creative solutions to break the deadlock between the United States and Iran. While the path forward remains uncertain, the costs of inaction or further escalation are becoming increasingly clear. The international community faces a critical juncture where decisions made in the coming days and weeks could shape the mustaqbal of regional and global security. Whether through direct negotiations, third-party mediation, or multilateral frameworks, the pursuit of dialogue remains the most viable path to preventing a broader conflict that could have devastating consequences for all involved.